Hello, and welcome back again to the Undoing We show on New Streaming Network, Going Solo Media, WGSN-DB Radio. I am Mardi Winder, and I am a strategic divorce consultant and high conflict divorce coach. And I work with people who are dealing with very challenging situations through their divorce to help them reduce the emotional and financial costs of the process and to be fully prepared to step into their new chapter post-divorce. And today on the show, I have somebody that you're all going to recognize if you have been listening to this particular show or any other shows on the Going Solo media. I want to introduce you to my guest, Cece Shatz. She is the founder of the whole New Streaming Network and WGSN-DB Going Solo Network radio, podcast, and TV. She has been a media visionary, an author, and a relationship coach. And she really works to help people first get their voice heard and also to really understand all the intricacies of some of these very difficult situations like divorce. Cece and I talked all about what people need to think about to be able to come into divorce and to have the support that they need going through the process so that they are the person they want to be when they come out on the other side. So let's listen into our interview, and then I'm going to highlight a few of the key points that Cece made throughout our conversation at the end.
You know, I'm just pretty much like everyone out there. I went through a bad divorce, right? And so as I went through the bad divorce, I started to make that transition into being single and thinking, well, now what am I going to do? And because I was in the divorce support group, which I actually took over, I realized how important that was for me, how it really gave me the connection that I needed, the community that I needed to be able to move forward, because we feel so alone when we're going through divorce because, you know, our whole world is shifting. Everything's moving around us. For me, it was really probably the first time I was ever actually alone in my life because I got married right out of high school. I got divorced a couple times, I hate to say, but I did. I went through relationships. And I found myself, you know, after a long-term relationship, I found myself again alone. And it was very hard. I didn't even know who I was. And I realized then that I'm not the only person that experiences this, you know, which is why I wanted to continue, which is why I developed the Going Solo Network, which is now, you know, we still have that going, and we also have the media part going. So yeah, so basically that's it, and I'll make a long story short, but it was a lot of years in between that because I've been divorced since '08 and I'm still single. So yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And this has been a reoccurring theme I found when I've had guests on the show that are in this field. Not everybody, but I'm going to say 95% of everybody I talk to came into this working with divorced people or helping with relationships or helping people rebuild their lives because of their own experiences. And there's a lot of authenticity in this area of the world
For sure.
when you've been through this. So, Cece, let's talk a little bit about the media platform and what you've built and how you see that as really being helpful for people going through divorce, because a lot of people who are listening to this podcast may not realize I have a completely different show. This is a shameless plug here on Cece's network that is called Undoing We. So can you talk a little bit though about your network and what all the good stuff you do over there?
Yeah, you know, the whole network started with just my show. And I was very fortunate to be on, I was on my girlfriend's show, and it talked about domestic violence within a relationship. I experienced it. I also experienced it within my divorce support group. And when I got out of there, they offered me, you know, a platform. They offered me a show where everybody pays for a show. People out there don't realize it. The host actually, there's a financial commitment that they do make when they do a show. But they offered me one for free. They said, we love you so much if you would just come on, because this is a topic that nobody is talking about. Back then, nobody was talking about divorce, how difficult it was, that transition to go through it without bashing the other party, right, without, you know, really taking that focus off of the other person and put it on yourself as you're moving forward in through the divorce. And so that just kind of blossomed. My shows, I now have several different shows because I feel that there's a need for them. The topics are there. There's a need for them. And then I connected with some friends that were actually, going through the podcast. Podcasts became very big back then. And they were going through the podcast world. And I said, well, shoot, I think that nobody was marketing me. And I'm thinking, my gosh, I did start to end up paying for my show. And I thought, I got to get this out there because I need it. I know other people need it. And so how do I do that? And so that's how we came out with the distribution. So now we have wonderful shows on, not just about divorce, because as we're going through divorce, we're making that really tough move of transition and stepping forward into our new life, and maybe even embracing new relationships. And so that's very important, but also the fun aspect. We're now doing some cooking shows and different things like that. So we're having a lot of different fun with that. But yeah, it just really has blossomed into a big thing. And now we're out on pretty much, we started in radio, internet radio, then went into podcasting. Now we're into video, live video, and onto the Roku and some of the other major platforms. And we found that we're just embraced everywhere we go. Now the new thing is streaming. What's happening is people are picking up your stream. We do it live. They pick up our stream and then they put it right on their network and they play it. And I've gotten great responses. I mean, there was a station that did that for a couple months last year. They had almost 1 million hits. 1 million people listening to the content of our shows that are on there, because there's nobody else that's doing something like that, and authentic. I mean, our people are authentic. Our hosts have experienced it. Their guests have experienced life itself. And so all of the different topics they've experienced themselves, so they're authentic in their helpfulness and tips and things like that. And also that connecting, you watch a show and you want to be able to know that you connect with that person. So that's the beauty of it. Truly the beauty of it.
And I love it because not only, so my show goes out on Thursdays and the Undoing We, and it streams on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube at that time slot. And then it's also available evergreen on YouTube, and it shows up on the different, like you said, Roku and a few other platforms like that. And I think this is so neat and such a good idea, because not everybody likes just listening to podcasts. Some people prefer the visual thing. It's nice to see it on your TV or on your computer. It's just, there's a whole different thing when you can see the people talking as opposed to just listening to them.
Right. We learn different ways, right? We learn by audio, we learn by visual, and sometimes we learn by reading. And so we're doing more and more. This next year coming up, we're going to be doing a lot more with publications, so we can get, more in a Word format, so people can have that and can also refer back to it, because that's the beauty of what we do. It's not a one-hit wonder. They can actually, it's on YouTube. They can go back and listen to it, because many times during my healing process, I would hear something, but I wasn't at that point. And I'd say, oh yeah, forgiveness. Like, heck, I'm ever going to forgive. I didn't understand what they were talking about, forgiveness,
Right.
I mean, I was like, don't get out in busy traffic, because I would probably run him over. I was like so mad at him and my life and everything else. But then I started understanding what forgiveness was about, because when I started getting to that point and I was ready to listen to it and hear it and really devour it, understand it, then that was there for me. I was able to go back and listen to shows that are like that. And I listen to all kinds of shows. I listen to our shows. I listen to all kinds of shows that help me as an individual grow, because that is what the Going Solo Network is about, is that we know that we have to continue our growth period. We have to continue being the best that we can be, right?
Yeah.
And connect with those type of people. It's like, raising your vibration to another level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And I just want to throw in there too, it's called the Going Solo Network, but it's really the positive side of this. And I I myself am single, not because of a divorce, but because of the death of my husband. And so there's a lot of the shows on there, why ever or however you got single, it's okay, because there's still going to be common things that we're going to be looking forward in the future. And I love the variety of shows, and there's different shows for different groups. I know you have shows specifically that are hosted for veterans or people of different faiths or people that are looking for different interests in their life. And I just think it is really cool how that all comes together. And so,
just to talk about the going solo, it's not. I mean, it originally started out with me being single, thinking I could connect other singles together. But then I realized as I'm moving forward in my life, I had to have a singular mindset, right? I started, before I was always referring to my husband, oh, well, what do you think about this? What do you want to do about that? But I realized I had to start, standing up and putting on my big girl pants, and I had to start, doing the world out by myself. But I realized business is the same way. We have a singular mindset when we do things. So going solo is not just about being single, but it's also about encouraging you to dig deeper within yourself to find the answers that you need. And if you don't know what the answers are, then you listen to shows, you listen to other people of that have the knowledge, and that you can embrace that to be able to make the decisions you want to make in life. So that's what truly going solo is about. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just a singles network. It's far more than that, because it really is an inspiration and a development that we all have to go through individually.
Yeah. And the more I learn, the more I work with my clients, and the more I learn and study about human growth and development, it really is the answers. You have to go inside to find the answers. If you are looking for somebody to externally solve your problems, you're just putting yourself back into that same toxic place as you were before. You got to be able to, you got to understand you before you can understand other people and work with them and do those things. So I know you've talked a little bit about how your journey has shaped how you do these things. Why or how is your journey important to your message? And not necessarily yours, Cece, but how is anybody's journey how do they turn their journey into a message? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we don't realize it. And, as we're going through, my thoughts about therapy was like, oh, gosh, who needs therapy? It's just a bunch of wacky people trying to tell you what to do that don't really understand you. But the reality is that we all need some sort of help along the way. We need some sort of growth along the way as we're moving forward in life. And I've realized that I think that we as a community, with joining other people that are going through the same things we're going through, they have an understanding with that. Mm-hmm. And I feel that that's what it's all about, is really being able to embrace the community around us. And that can be your friends, family, anyone that truly understands who you are. And then also digging deep within yourself and developing yourself as you continue to move forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that we have to continue that. And that's really what we're really all about.
Yeah. And I so agree, because you're right. You can't think yourself out of a problem if you have no idea what the solution could be. It's just, you've got to get some support to help know what you need to do to be able to move forward. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the whole idea of life lessons and how those tie into moving forward, personal growth, wherever you want to take that, because I know that a lot of your shows focus on how those life lessons can really be learning experiences for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't understand about patterns in life, right? And about as we grow and we develop ourselves and our way of thinking. And I didn't realize that my relationships, when I was moving forward into relationships, I didn't realize how similar they were to each other. And I when I was, and then I would get divorced and I would think, what's going on? Why can't because I am a very easygoing person. I'm easy to get along with. I'm fun. I mean, I'm thinking like, what the heck? Why is this not working for me? But then I realized that the two men there were the same.
Mm,
Their personalities were very much the same. And I was attracted to that type of personality. Then I had to ask myself, why am I attracted to that? What is maybe what's missing within me, or what do I feel insecure about that I have to, go towards that? And so that's what I think our life lessons are about. Is sometimes we walk the same walk, maybe with different people, and we don't quite understand those, right? And it's really our patterns in life. We have to start thinking about that. We were always so quick to blame somebody else.
right.
Well, what my marriage didn't work because you were this, this, and that. Well, the reality is, I don't think my marriage worked, and now I'll just speak for myself. I don't think my marriage worked because I actually chose the wrong person. I chose the wrong person, and so that is really what it is for me. And so the more I start to understand myself, I understand the life lessons that I've experienced, I understand the patterns that I maybe need to change. I learn more about myself, of what I want, what I don't want in life. And I think we're all like that. So I think all my experiences, I think we're all, each and every person out there has those type of experiences, just maybe a little bit different
Yeah.
along the way.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to, when you're right in the thick of things, that's not the time to be super reflective and to start,
Mhm.
focusing inside and looking for this. But once you get clear of that, it is worth time. And I really encourage my clients, once you get through this, or if even before, if you can, when you're in the divorce process, start thinking, where are the patterns? I love that you mentioned patterns because I think they're important. Where are the
Mhm.
patterns? And then also, where are there things that, not that I did wrong or that I'm to blame for, but where are the things that I would like to make changes in myself?
Mhm.
Because once you acknowledge that, hey, I played a role in whatever happened, then you can make changes. If you never accept that, all you do is just keep doing the same thing over and over again, like you say, and then you get angrier and angrier because you're frustrated with what's happening.
Absolutely. And this is why I am such an advocate for coaches. I really feel coaches are so important, so vital in our lives. And they're specialty coaches out there that do all kinds of different things. And so whatever you're going through, I think there's a coach out there for you, and one that you can connect with, that can kind of help be maybe your leader, your sounding board, kind of help point you in the direction that you maybe need to go. Because sometimes we don't hear ourselves. We'll say things, we'll mean things, but we don't really listen to ourselves. And so sometimes we need a coach that says, well, wait a minute, I think you said, didn't I understand you say, and then you're like, okay, all right, I get that. So I really love coaches. And there's also elements of, let's say, if we're just talking about divorce, there's elements of divorce. There's all different kinds of elements. And you'll hear on our network, you'll hear people say, well, you need to build your team as you go through. And people say, oh my gosh, I don't want the expense of that, but you need to understand what your team would be consisting of. What do you need? A financial planner? Do you need, someone to help you go through the paperwork of divorce? Do you need someone to help you through the emotional part of divorce? Do you figure out what it is that you do need? So there's so many different aspects of it, and there's life is complicated.
Yeah.
So why do we think we have to travel alone?
Yeah.
We don't have to be alone.
And you
Yeah.
raised a really good point. I hear that all the time. Well, what do you mean I need a divorce team? And I'm like, okay, you can go to your attorney and use them as your therapist and your financial planner and your coach and everything else. And they are the highest paid professional you're probably ever going to hire in your life. And you can blow, $500 or $600 an hour once a week to go sit in there and have the attorney say, sorry, that's not my wheelhouse. Or you can utilize people that are probably less than half of that cost, and you're going to get clear, precise information. Your attorney isn't a financial planner, your attorney isn't a therapist. And so there's so many different benefits to that team approach. Now, you do relationship coaching, Cece. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the biggest thing I think is missing as we move through, right? We're moving through divorce. We're getting through divorce. Then what the heck do we do, right? And we're thinking about, what do we want? Well, I hear a lot of people say, I never want to be married again. I never want a relationship again. I never want anything like that. And like, I said to you that I'm single. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm not in a relationship.
Right.
There's a total difference between the two. So the thing is, you want to start relationship building, which means you want to start making friends and connections with people. How do you go about doing that? Especially when you're hurt, you're insecure about yourself, you really don't know how to go about doing it. It's all that transition. And so that's where I think we get stuck, is in that transition of moving forward in our lives. A lot of times we don't even know what makes us happy anymore.
Yeah.
We say to ourselves, like when I got online, I was like, I did everything my ex wanted to do. I didn't really have a choice of what I wanted to do. So then I'm thinking like, well, what makes me happy? What do I want to do? And
Right.
so it's those kind of things. And it's building a relationship, not only with the external people around you, creating, relationships with them, but it's also creating a relationship with yourself, better understanding what it is you want to do, what it is as you're moving forward in life, and like what kind of career do you want to do? Do you want to take up, I've had a lot of people that in our divorce support group that went into the arts. One's an actress, one does sculpting, painting. They've gone into doing that, and then that's my first thing I always say. Well, what did you want to do when you were in high school?
Right.
Did you want to play an instrument? Did you, let's start creating what we would say a bucket list, but let's create a life list.
Yeah.
Let's create that.
Yeah.
So that is what I think a relationship is you want to start building not only an external relationship with people, because it's important, because as I said with going solo, you might be single and alone, but you'll never be alone, right?
Right. Right.
So you build a relationship, but you have to build that strong relationship with yourself as you move forward. So you
Yeah.
can say, no, I don't want this in my life. You want to be able to say that, as you start dating, you might date someone that really isn't, right for you.
Right.
And you've got to be able to say to yourself, that's not right for me. Good person, not saying they're a bad person. They're just not my person.
Yeah.
And so then you're able to move forward with grace and dignity as you move forward into dating. So yeah.
Great information. Now I'm going to ask you the final question here. Well, not quite. There's a couple more. Here it is. Of all the stuff that we've talked about, and thank you for sharing all this, because I really think that, you have a unique perspective, not only on like what people are going through as a coach, but also with your sphere of influence in the media and what you see people are doing and listening to. Of all this stuff we've talked about, what do you think is the biggest takeaway from today, Cece?
I think not to be afraid of stepping out of the box, right? To really think about yourself in a different way. Don't think about yourself as it is in the past. Think about how what you want to look like in the future. Because so often we want to live in the past. Well, this happened to me, that happened to me. We all have a past. We all have it. Some's pretty, some of it isn't so pretty.
Right.
But if we want to say to ourselves, okay, if I'm going to take today, I'm going to draw a line in sand, and how am I going to step over that and move forward into the life that I truly want? That's what we want. That's what we want to do. We want to step out of that box, across that line, and figure out what it is that we want in life. And sometimes we need a coach to help us along the way. Sometimes we just need a good friend that will listen to us, that will help us. Sometimes we just need to listen to various different shows to get inspired and start understanding what it is that we want to do. Because there's so many elements of our life. It's not just about, a relationship or maybe it's about a career, or maybe it's about just, figuring out what you want to do for the rest of you. I mean, there's like so many elements of life, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really embracing and not being afraid to embrace life and understand that it's really your choice,
Okay, now for the fun part. I'm going to summarize a few of the points that I think Cece made that are absolutely important and critical for anyone going through divorce to consider. The first one is there is a real power in having people around you who have experienced the same issues that you're going through and that are 100% supportive of helping you get through the process. And that does not mean people who tell you what to do or who are constantly pushing their agenda on you. What those people are people that can be compassionate, that can be empathetic, and that understand the unique challenges of divorce. And like Cece says, the Going Solo Network and her other media platforms do offer that opportunity for people, and we're so glad you're here. The second point that Cece makes that I think is really critical is that we can only grow and get better through a challenge like a divorce if we self-reflect on what happened in the marriage or in the relationship that didn't go well, but also what worked in the relationship that went really, really well, because these are the things that we can build upon when we are single and planning to move into a new relationship after a divorce or post-divorce. The other thing that Cece mentioned here was the whole idea of understanding patterns. If you find yourself in the same type of relationships over and over again, or you're dating a person that looks different, but they really have the same personality traits and the same issues that maybe are uncomfortable for you to deal with, that is a factor of a pattern that you are in. And it is possible to recognize those patterns and to make changes. Relationship coaches, divorce coaches, therapists, mental health professionals can all help with those kind of strategies and making those personal changes and growth. And the third one that I really particularly resonated with me as somebody who went through a divorce over 30 years ago and have gone through a lot of life transitions in the meantime is that you have to step out of your comfort zone to have growth. If you stay where you're always at and you always feel comfortable and you never challenge yourself, you're never going to make a change. At the same time, being authentically who you are at all times allows you to feel very comfortable and very in control of the decisions and choices you're making for yourself. I hope you found this episode as empowering and uplifting and inspirational as I did. Thanks for listening. Now go out and do something really nice for yourself because you deserve it.